She never saw it coming. The woman who spent months tearing her down had no idea her own husband was quietly building her up. Welcome back. Tell me from which city you are watching me and what time it is there. Now listen to this story. In the quiet suburb of Millbrook, nestled between towering evergreens and morning mist, Mia Thompson unpacked her final box. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted out her grandmother's cast-iron skillet. The weight of it grounded her. This was home now. This had to be home. 7-year-old Noah peered through the kitchen window, his breath fogging the glass. "Mama, look. There's a little girl next door with the same backpack as me." His voice carried that innocent excitement only children possess. That pure joy before the world teaches them to be cautious. Mia smiled, watching him. Her son deserved this. A neighborhood where children played in tree-lined streets, where the scent of fresh-cut grass mixed with barbecue smoke on weekend evenings. Where maybe, just maybe, they could finally belong somewhere. But belonging had never come easy for Mia. The divorce papers were still fresh in her memory. The way David's lawyer had painted her as unstable, a single mother with unrealistic dreams. Those words echoed in quiet moments when Noah was asleep and the house felt too empty. She touched the faded recipe card taped to her grandmother's skillet. Bourbon pecan pie. The secret was in the vanilla extract. Pure vanilla, never imitation. Her grandmother's voice seemed to whisper through the years, "Sugar sweetens the tongue, but truth sweetens the soul." 3 days later, Mia stood in her backyard, nervous energy coursing through her veins. She had invited the neighbors for a simple barbecue. Nothing fancy. Just corn on the grill and her grandmother's famous cornbread, the kind of gathering that builds bridges. Mrs. Linda Gray appeared at the fence first. Mid-40s, perfectly styled blonde hair that never moved in the wind. Her smile was practiced, professional, the kind that never quite reached her eyes. "How thoughtful," Linda said, eyeing the modest spread. "A barbecue. How very quaint." The word hung in the air like smoke. Behind Linda walked her husband Tom. Tall, gentle eyes, work-roughened hands that spoke of a man who understood effort. He carried a casserole dish and offered Mia a genuine smile. "Welcome to the neighborhood." Sarah made her mother's mac and cheese. "Actually, I made it," Linda corrected sharply. "From Sarah's mother's recipe." Tom's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but he said nothing. More neighbors arrived. The Johnsons from down the street. Mrs. Peterson with her twin toddlers. The atmosphere warmed as Noah ran circles with the other children, their laughter mixing with the dinner conversation. But Mia noticed Linda's calculating gaze, the way she studied every detail, the paper plates instead of china, the discount store tablecloth, the single car in the driveway instead of two. "So, Mia," Linda's voice cut through the friendly chatter, "what does your husband do for work?" The question silenced the table. "I'm divorced," Mia answered simply, her voice steady despite the familiar ache the word brought. "Oh." Linda's eyebrows rose with feigned sympathy. "That must be so difficult, managing everything alone." Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Mrs. Johnson cleared her throat and changed the subject to the upcoming school year. But the damage hung in the evening air like the scent of burning charcoal. Later, as neighbors said their goodbyes, Tom lingered. He handed Mia a business card. "If you ever need anything fixed around the house, I do handyman work on weekends," Linda called from their driveway. "Tom, we need to get Emma ready for bed." He winced. "That's my cue. But I meant what I said. Good neighbors help each other." That night, Mia lay awake replaying Linda's tone, the subtle mockery wrapped in concern. She had heard it before. Different voices, same message. "You don't belong here. You're not enough." But she had to be enough. For Noah. 2 weeks passed in careful politeness. Mia waved to neighbors while walking Noah to school. She smiled at Linda across their adjoining fence. She pretended not to notice the way Linda's friends looked her up and down at the grocery store. Then came that Tuesday morning in Parker's Market. Mia pushed her cart through the produce section, Noah chattering about his upcoming school project. The citrus scent of fresh oranges filled the air. Normal Tuesday routine. Normal life. Until Linda's voice cut through her peace. Well, well, if it isn't our neighborhood dreamer. Mia turned to find Linda examining avocados with theatrical precision. Her smile was sharp as broken glass. Excuse me? I heard you telling Mrs. Johnson about opening a bakery. Linda's laugh was brittle. That's adorable, really. Such big dreams for someone in your situation. Heat flushed Mia's cheeks. Around them, other shoppers pretended not to listen while hanging on every word. I don't understand what you mean. Oh, honey. Linda's voice dripped false concern. Single mothers barely keep their heads above water. And you want to start a business? In this economy? She shook her head sadly. I just hate to see people set themselves up for disappointment. Noah tugged at Mia's sleeve. Mama, what's wrong? Nothing, sweetheart. Go pick out some apples. But Noah's innocent question had given Linda more ammunition. That poor child. He shouldn't have to worry about his mother's stability. Linda's voice rose just enough for nearby shoppers to hear clearly. Some people need to focus on reality instead of chasing impossible fantasies. The words hit like physical blows. Mia's hands gripped the cart handle until her knuckles went white. Every insecurity, every fear about her ability to provide, to protect, to be enough for Noah surfaced at once. I should go, Mia whispered. Of course you should. Linda's satisfaction was almost visible. Take care of that little boy. He needs his mother to be practical. Mia walked away on shaking legs. Behind her, she heard Linda's voice continuing, weaving doubt about the new neighbor's judgment, her priorities, her fitness as a mother. But she didn't hear Tom Gray step out from the next aisle. Didn't see his face darken as Linda's cruel words reached him. Didn't witness the way his fists clenched at his sides. That evening, Tom Gray sat across from his wife at their perfectly set dining table. The silence stretched between them like a canyon. I heard about your conversation with Mia today, he said quietly. Linda dabbed her lips with her napkin, unconcerned. Someone needed to give her a reality check. The woman's delusional. She's trying to build a life for her son. She's setting herself up for failure, and frankly, I don't understand why you care so much about the problems of a stranger. Tom set down his fork. Because I remember what it felt like to have people doubt my dreams. That was different. You were young. She's a single mother with responsibilities. And you were supportive then. What happened to that woman? Linda's face hardened. I grew up. Maybe you should too. But Tom couldn't shake the image of Mia's face in that grocery store. The way her shoulders had slumped under Linda's words. The protective way she'd moved closer to her son. He had been where she was. Young, struggling, dismissed by people who thought they knew better. Back when he'd wanted to expand beyond construction into custom furniture. When everyone said he was too ambitious, too unrealistic. Everyone except Mia's type of dreamer. The next morning, Tom found himself driving past the old Miller place on Oak Street. The building sat empty, paint peeling, but the bones were solid. Steel beams, good foundation. It would make a perfect bakery. He parked and walked the perimeter. Through the dusty windows he could envision it, warmth spilling from ovens. The scent of fresh bread drawing people in, a place where community happened naturally. On impulse, he called the property manager. Tom Gray here. I'm interested in the Miller building. What would it take to make it lease ready? That weekend, Mia hosted her second neighborhood gathering. This time, just coffee and store-bought cookies in her living room. Smaller, safer, less opportunity for judgment. But Linda arrived with her armor of superiority fully intact. Store-bought cookies? Linda examined the package with obvious disappointment. I would have thought someone opening a bakery might want to showcase their talents. Mia's cheeks burned. I've been working extra shifts at the restaurant, not much time for baking at home. Oh yes, the restaurant job. How's that working out? Are you making enough to cover your expenses? The question landed like a dart in a bullseye. Mia's throat tightened. The truth was, she barely made enough. Every dollar went to Noah's needs, the mortgage, keeping their heads above water. Tom shifted forward in his chair. Actually, Mia, I've been meaning to ask, would you consider catering a small office party? My construction crew would love some home-baked goods. The offer hung in the air like a lifeline. Linda's eyes narrowed. Tom, we don't know anything about her food safety certifications, her insurance. There are liability issues. I'm sure Mia would handle everything properly, Tom said firmly. His voice carried an authority that surprised everyone, including his wife. Mia looked between them, confusion written across her features. Why was Tom defending her? What was his motivation? I'd be happy to discuss it, she said carefully. Wonderful. Tom smiled, and for the first time in weeks, Mia felt hope flutter in her chest. Later that evening, as neighbors filtered out, Tom lingered again. This time, Linda had taken Emma home early, claiming a headache. I meant what I said about the catering, Tom told Mia, as she cleaned up cups. But there's something else. I found a property that might interest you. Mr. Gray, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not in a position to just look at it, that's all I'm asking. Sometimes opportunities come when we're least prepared for them. Mia studied his face, earnest, hopeful, but complicated. She had learned to be cautious with men who offered help. There was usually a price. Why are you being so kind to me? Tom was quiet for a long moment. Because I know what it's like to have people try to talk you out of your dreams, and because sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who understand us least. The sadness in his voice was unmistakable. 3 days later, Mia stood outside the Miller building, her heart hammering against her ribs. Tom waited patiently as she peered through the windows, her breath fogging the glass. Inside, she could see it all. The kitchen counter where she'd roll out pie crusts. The display case filled with her grandmother's recipes brought to life. The small tables where neighbors would gather over coffee and conversation. The rent's reasonable, Tom said quietly, and the landlord's willing to work with someone who's serious about community investment. I don't understand. How could I possibly afford this? I'm barely covering my current expenses. Tom hesitated. What if I told you there was a community development grant for women starting small businesses? Mia's eyes widened. Is there really? There could be, Tom said carefully. These things take time to process, but the preliminary approval could happen quickly, especially with the right recommendation. Something in his tone made her pause. Tom, are you involved in this grant somehow? He looked away. Let's just say I have connections in the business community, people who believe in supporting local entrepreneurs. It wasn't a lie exactly, but it wasn't the whole truth either. That evening, Linda Gray sat at her kitchen table, paging through neighborhood association newsletters. Her perfectly manicured nails drummed against the glossy pages. You were late for dinner, she said when Tom walked in. I told you I had an errand to run. What kind of errand? Tom loosened his tie, weighing his words. Business stuff, property development. Since when do you deal in property development? Since I started thinking about diversifying our investments. Linda's eyes sharpened. Our investments in what? Local businesses, community development, things that strengthen the neighborhood. But Linda wasn't stupid. She had noticed the way her husband looked at their neighbor, the way he jumped to defend Mia at every opportunity, the way he found excuses to be helpful. This is about her, isn't it? About that woman with her ridiculous bakery dreams. Tom's jaw tightened. Her name is Mia, and her dreams aren't ridiculous. They are if she can't afford them. Do you know what her credit score probably looks like? A divorced single mother working at a chain restaurant? You don't know anything about her financial situation. I know enough. Linda slammed the newsletter down. And I know you're being naive if you think throwing money at her problems is going to help anyone. Maybe someone should throw money at her problems. Maybe someone should give her the chance everyone else refuses to. The words hung between them like a gauntlet thrown. Tom, Linda's voice went dangerously quiet. Please tell me you're not actually considering financially backing a stranger's business venture. Tom met her eyes. I'm considering backing someone with talent, determination, and a solid business plan. She doesn't have a business plan. She has a fantasy. You've never even tasted her food. Linda stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. That's not the point. The point is you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. Maybe my judgment has been clouded by other things for too long. The silence that followed held 20 years of marriage, 20 years of Linda's opinions shaping Tom's decisions. 20 years of dreams deferred to keep peace in their household. But watching Mia fight for her son's future had awakened something in Tom. A memory of the man he used to be before compromise and convenience wore away his edges. That weekend, the annual Millbrook Community Festival transformed the town square. Paper lanterns swayed between oak trees, casting warm light over craft booths and food vendors. The sound of bluegrass music mixed with children's laughter and the distant call of carnival games. Mia walked through the festival holding Noah's hand, trying to ignore the way some neighbors whispered when she passed. Word had spread about her bakery plans. Some people were encouraging, others were skeptical. Most were waiting to see if the single mother would crash and burn. She paused at the community bulletin board, where a handwritten sign advertised the upcoming cooking contest. First prize, $500 and a feature in the Millbrook Herald. $500. Enough to cover her first month's rent on the Miller Building? You should enter, Mama, Noah said, following her gaze. Your pie is the best in the whole world. But Mia remembered Linda's words. What if she failed publicly? What if everyone was right, and she was just delusional? Maybe next year, sweetheart. Why next year? Because I'm scared. Because I don't know if I'm strong enough for everyone to watch me fail. Because Mama needs more time to prepare. But Noah, with the clarity unique to children, saw right through her fear. Grandma Rosie always said the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time is today. Mia's throat tightened, her grandmother's words coming from her son's innocent mouth. How many times had Grandma Rosie pushed her toward opportunities she was too scared to take? You remember that? I remember everything about Grandma Rosie. She'd want you to enter, Mama. She'd want you to show everyone how special her recipes are. Across the square, Tom Gray watched the interaction from behind a ring toss booth. He saw the moment Mia's resolve crystallized, saw her march up to the contest table and sign her name with shaking hands. He also saw Linda emerge from the antique booth, her face darkening as she witnessed Mia's registration. Thomas. Linda appeared at his elbow like a storm cloud. Please tell me you didn't encourage this embarrassment. I didn't say a word to her about the contest. But you've been filling her head with impossible ideas. Look at her. She actually thinks she can win. Tom watched Mia discussing recipe requirements with the contest coordinator. Her face was animated, hopeful, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or perfect styling. Maybe she can win. Linda laughed, sharp and bitter. Against Martha Henderson's blue ribbon apple Betty? Against the Kowalski family's traditional pierogi? She's setting herself up for public humiliation or public recognition. You're being ridiculous. But Tom's attention had shifted to Noah, who was watching his mother with pure pride. The same way Tom's own son might have looked at him, if Tom had ever been brave enough to chase his dreams in public. The night before the contest, Mia stood in her kitchen at 2 a.m, mixing bourbon into pecan filling. Her grandmother's recipe card lay on the counter, stained with decades of use. The measurements were in Grandma Rosie's careful handwriting, but the real secrets weren't written down. The way to test vanilla extract by smell. How to know pecans were perfectly toasted by sound. When to add the bourbon for maximum flavor, without overwhelming the delicate balance. These lessons lived in Mia's hands, in her intuition, in places deeper than recipes could reach. As she worked, she thought about the whispers she'd heard at the festival, the speculation about her chances, the betting pool she wasn't supposed to know about. Most people had put their money on Martha Henderson, but Mia wasn't baking for most people. She was baking for Noah, who believed in her completely, for her grandmother's memory, and for the part of herself that refused to hide anymore. The kitchen filled with the scent of butter, vanilla, and promise. The next morning dawned crisp and clear. Perfect weather for a community contest. Mia arrived at the town square early, carrying her pie like precious cargo. The bourbon pecan masterpiece gleamed under the morning sun, its crust golden and perfect. Other contestants were setting up their entries. Martha Henderson's Apple Betty looked professional and precise. The Kowalski pierogi were arranged like small works of art. Everything looked intimidating and polished. Mia's pie looked homemade, which was exactly what it was. Nervous? Tom's voice made her jump. She turned to find him behind her, carrying a cup of coffee and wearing a gentle smile. Terrified, she admitted. Good. Being terrified means it matters to you. Linda appeared beside her husband, resplendent in a crisp white dress that probably cost more than Mia's monthly grocery budget. Mia, how brave of you to enter. I'm sure you'll learn a lot from the experience. The patronizing tone made Tom's jaw clench visibly. Linda, he said quietly. What? I'm being encouraging. But her smile was the kind that never reached her eyes, the kind that said she was already composing the story she'd tell later about the single mother's predictable failure. The judging began at noon. 5 community members, including the mayor and the editor of the Millbrook Herald, tasted each entry with serious concentration. They made notes, whispered among themselves, tasted again. Mia stood behind her pie, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Noah squeezed her fingers. It's okay, Mama. Win or lose, I'm proud of you. When had her 7-year-old become so wise? The judges reached her pie last. Mia watched their faces as they tasted, searching for any hint of reaction. The mayor's eyebrows rose slightly. The newspaper editor closed her eyes as she chewed. One judge immediately went back for a second bite, but their poker faces revealed nothing. 15 minutes later, the mayor stepped up to the microphone. The crowd gathered closer, anticipation crackling like electricity. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's entries were exceptional. Every contestant should be proud of their contribution to our community celebration. Mia's heart sank. The speech sounded like preparation for consolation prizes. However, there was one entry that unanimously impressed the judges. A pie that perfectly captured the heart of home cooking while demonstrating remarkable technical skill. The mayor's eyes found Mia in the crowd. This year's winner of the Millbrook Community Cooking Contest is Mia Thompson for her bourbon pecan pie. The words hit Mia like a physical force. Around her, the crowd erupted in applause. Noah jumped up and down, whooping with joy. Neighbors who had been skeptical now looked impressed, even admiring. But it was Tom's face she found first. His smile was radiant, proud, as if her victory was somehow his own. Linda's expression was unreadable. As Mia walked forward to accept her prize, her legs felt unsteady. The newspaper editor shook her hand enthusiastically. Mrs. Thompson, this pie is extraordinary. I understand you're planning to open a bakery? Our readers would love to hear about your business plans. Business plans, features in the newspaper, public recognition, everything she'd dreamed of and been too scared to pursue. That evening, the neighborhood buzzed with news of Mia's victory. The Johnsons stopped by with congratulations. Mrs. Peterson asked about pre-ordering pies for Thanksgiving. Even the mailman mentioned reading about her in the community newsletter, but it was the quiet knock at 8 o'clock that surprised her. Tom stood on her doorstep, holding an envelope. I wanted to give you this personally, he said. Inside was a lease agreement for the Miller Building, terms more generous than anything she had hoped for. A rent schedule that actually seemed manageable on her restaurant salary plus contest winnings. Tom, I don't understand. How is this possible? He shifted uncomfortably. Like I said, there are community development programs, grants for local businesses. Your contest win qualifies you for special consideration. Something in his tone made her pause. Who exactly runs these programs? Local business leaders, people who want to see the community thrive. It wasn't technically a lie. Tom was a local business leader. He did want the community to thrive. But the grant money was coming from his personal savings account, not any official program. Tom, Mia studied his face carefully. Are you personally involved in funding this? The directness of her question caught him off guard. There are various funding sources. Are you using your own money to help me? The silence stretched between them. Why would you do that? She whispered. Why would you risk so much for someone you barely know? Tom looked away. Because sometimes people deserve a chance, even when no one else believes they can succeed. And Linda? Does she know about this? Linda has her own opinions about how we should spend our money. Which wasn't an answer, but it told Mia everything she needed to know. I can't accept this, it's too much. If your wife doesn't support it. My wife doesn't support a lot of things I believe in anymore. The words came out harder than he intended. But this isn't about my marriage. It's about giving someone with talent and determination the opportunity they've earned. Mia stared at the lease agreement. Her grandmother's dream, written in legal language. Everything she'd worked toward, handed to her by a man whose motivations she couldn't fully understand. What do you want in return? Nothing, just prove them wrong. Prove that sometimes dreams aren't foolish. Sometimes they're exactly what a community needs. 2 doors down, Linda Gray stood at her living room window, watching her husband's silhouette on Mia's front porch. The conversation had lasted too long. The body language was too intimate. Her suspicions crystallized into certainty. Her husband wasn't just helping their neighbor. He was infatuated with her. The next morning, Linda made her decision. If Tom wouldn't see reason, she would provide it for him, publicly if necessary. She began with subtle inquiries. A conversation with the bank manager about unusual large transactions. A chat with the property management company about the Miller Building's new tenant. A few strategically placed questions about community grant programs that no one seemed to have heard of. Within a week, she had pieced together the truth. There was no grant program, no community development fund, just her husband, using their joint savings to bankroll another woman's dreams. The betrayal cut deeper than any infidelity could have. He hadn't just lied to her. He had made her complicit in the lie, using their money without her knowledge or consent. Meanwhile, Mia threw herself into bakery preparations with manic energy. She spent every free moment scrubbing the Miller Building, painting walls, researching equipment. The contest victory had given her confidence, but the reality of opening a business was overwhelming. Noah helped after school, chattering about his new friend Emma Gray while he swept floors and organized supplies. The innocence of his friendship with Linda's daughter felt like the one purely good thing in an increasingly complicated situation. Emma says her mom is sad a lot lately, Noah mentioned one afternoon. Oh? Why is she sad? She doesn't know. But Mrs. Gray yells at Mr. Gray more than she used to. Emma hears them fighting after she goes to bed. Mia's stomach twisted. Was Tom's help causing problems in his marriage? Was she inadvertently destroying a family? But when she tried to return the lease agreement, Tom refused to take it back. You earned this opportunity, he insisted. Don't let other people's problems become your limitations. Still, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing in the middle of a minefield she hadn't created, but could easily detonate. The explosion came 3 weeks later, at the monthly Neighborhood Association block party. Linda had been planning for days. She'd confirmed every detail of Tom's financial involvement. She'd rehearsed her speech. She was ready to expose the lies, the deception, and the inappropriate relationship brewing between her husband and their neighbor. The party was in full swing. String lights twinkled between trees. The scent of grilled food mixed with blooming jasmine. Children ran between adults, their laughter mixing with comfortable conversation. Mia had brought samples from her bakery preparations, small cups of bread pudding with bourbon sauce, the same recipe that had won the contest, adapted for easier serving. The praise was immediate and genuine. People asked about opening dates, special order possibilities, catering availability. For the first time in months, Mia felt like she belonged in this community. Then Linda stood up. The conversation quieted as neighbors sensed something brewing in her posture, her expression. "Friends," Linda's voice carried across the yard, "I have something important to share with all of you." Tom looked up from his conversation with the Johnsons, alarm flickering across his features. "We've all been so impressed by Mia's recent success, her contest victory, her exciting new business venture. It's been inspiring to watch someone achieve their dreams through hard work and determination." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Mia smiled uncertainly, not sure where this was leading. "But I think it's important for everyone to understand how these dreams are actually being funded." The yard went silent except for the distant sound of children playing. "Tom," Linda's voice cut across the space between them like a blade, "would you like to tell everyone about the community development grant that's making Mia's bakery possible?" Tom's face went pale. Around him, neighbors looked confused. Mrs. Johnson frowned. "What development grant?" "The one that doesn't exist," Linda announced triumphantly. "The one that's actually my husband using our joint savings account to play fairy godfather to our attractive new neighbor." The words dropped into the party like stones into still water, sending ripples of shock through the gathering. Mia felt the blood drain from her face. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know." Linda's voice dripped false sympathy. "You thought you'd won some legitimate funding opportunity. You had no idea my husband was lying to both of us." Tom stood up slowly, his face a mixture of shame and defiance. "Linda, this isn't the place. This is exactly the place. Since you chose to make our private finances a matter of public neighborhood investment without consulting me." The gathered neighbors looked between the three of them like spectators at a tennis match. Some seemed shocked. Others appeared uncomfortable. A few looked almost entertained by the domestic drama unfolding. "How much?" Mrs. Peterson asked quietly. "Excuse me?" Tom's voice was strained. "How much of your savings are you risking on this venture?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "Enough," Linda answered when Tom remained silent. "Enough that if it fails, we'll feel the consequences for years." Mia stood frozen, the weight of everyone's stares pressing down on her shoulders. The bread pudding samples in her hands suddenly felt like evidence of her naivety, her unearned confidence. "I need to go," she whispered. But Linda wasn't finished. "I want everyone to understand. I don't blame Mia for accepting help when it was offered. But I do think our community deserves honesty about how these success stories actually happen." The words were carefully chosen, devastating in their reasonableness. Linda had managed to destroy Mia's reputation while maintaining the moral high ground. As Mia hurried toward her house, the whispers began behind her. "I can't believe Tom would lie about something like that. So she doesn't actually have funding? How is she going to afford the rent? This is going to ruin their marriage. That poor child, to see his mother's dreams collapse so publicly." Noah. Where was Noah? She found him by the swing set with Emma, both children staring at the adult drama with wide, confused eyes. "Mama, what's happening? Why is Mrs. Gray so angry?" Mia knelt down, trying to keep her voice steady. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, sweetie. It's not your fault, and it's not Emma's fault." Emma's lower lip was trembling. "Is my dad in trouble?" Mia's heart broke for both children caught in this adult mess. "Your dad was trying to help me." Sometimes helping people gets complicated, but Noah, with his 7-year-old clarity, cut straight to the heart of it. "Are you going to lose the bakery, Mama?" The question she'd been avoiding crashed over her like a wave. Without Tom's support, without the favorable lease terms, without the community's respect, how could she possibly make it work? "I don't know, sweetheart. We'll figure it out." But Noah heard the defeat in her voice, and something shifted in his young face. A determination that reminded Mia powerfully of her grandmother. "It's not fair," he said quietly. You won the contest fair and square. Your pie was the best. Everyone said so. I know, baby, but Mrs. Gray is being mean because she's jealous. From the mouths of babes. That night, Mia sat at her kitchen table staring at the lease agreement. Tomorrow, she would have to call the property manager, explain that the funding had fallen through, apologize for wasting everyone's time. The dream felt as fragile as spun sugar, beautiful while it lasted, but dissolving at the first touch of reality. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door to find Tom, looking haggard and remorseful. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. You owe your wife an apology. I'm just collateral damage. Don't say that. Your success isn't collateral damage, it's the whole point. Mia shook her head. Tom, I can't accept money that's causing problems in your marriage. Even if you were willing to risk it, I'm not willing to be responsible for destroying your family. You're not destroying anything. Linda and I have been having problems for years. This just brought them to the surface. All the more reason I can't be involved. Tom ran his hands through his hair. Mia, you have talent, real talent. Your contest victory proved that. Don't let other people's dysfunction convince you to give up. How can I not give up? Without your help, I can't afford the rent, the equipment, the startup costs. I don't have funding, Tom. I have a dream and a $500 contest prize. What if you started smaller? A catering business run from your home kitchen. Build up a customer base gradually. That's not the same dream. No, it's a practical step toward the dream. Sometimes we have to build bridges brick by brick instead of leaping across the canyon. Mia studied his face. Even after the public humiliation, even after his marriage was in crisis, he still believed in her. The faith in his eyes was almost harder to bear than Linda's contempt. Why did you lie to me about the grant? Tom sighed deeply. Because I knew you'd never accept direct help. You needed to believe you'd earned it legitimately. I had earned it. My pie won that contest on its own merit. Exactly. You just needed the financial support to match your talent with opportunity. But now everyone knows the truth. They'll always wonder if I really deserved any of this. Tom was quiet for a moment. You know what I think? I think the people who matter will judge you by the quality of your food and the strength of your character. The people who don't matter will gossip regardless of what you do. It was good advice. But it didn't solve her practical problems. The next morning, Mia called in sick to the restaurant. She couldn't face her co-workers' questions, their sympathy, their carefully neutral expressions that said they'd heard about the neighborhood drama. Instead, she took Noah to school and then drove aimlessly through Millbrook, trying to figure out her next move. She found herself parked outside the Miller building, staring at the empty storefront that had briefly held all her hopes. Excuse me. A woman's voice made her look up. An elderly lady stood beside her car, leaning on a walking cane. Are you the pie lady? From the contest? Yes, that was me. I'm Dorothy Chen. I live over on Maple Street. I've been thinking about that pie for weeks. Do you take special orders? The simple question caught Mia off guard. Well, I don't have a commercial kitchen set up yet. Honey, I don't care where you bake it, I care how it tastes. My granddaughter's getting married next month, and she specifically requested bourbon pecan pie after trying your sample at the block party. A wedding order. Real income. A customer who didn't care about her personal drama, only her talent. How many pies would you need? 6, maybe 8 if you can handle the volume. Mia did quick math. Even at reasonable prices, 8 pies would cover her mortgage payment. I can handle it. Mrs. Chen smiled. Wonderful, here's my number. Call me with pricing and timeline. As the elderly woman walked away, Mia felt the first stirring of hope she'd experienced since Linda's public revelation. One customer, one order, one step toward rebuilding. That afternoon, Noah came home from school, bubbling with excitement. Mama, Emma's mom is making her have a play date with Madison Peterson instead of me. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Sometimes friendships get complicated. But Emma doesn't want to play with Madison. She wants to come here and help with baking. Mia's heart ached. The children's friendship was becoming another casualty of adult conflict. Maybe Emma's mom thinks it's better if you two take a break from playing together. That's stupid. Noah's indignation was pure and righteous. We didn't do anything wrong. No, they didn't, but they were paying the price anyway. That evening, Mia began planning Mrs. Chen's wedding order. She calculated ingredient costs, baking schedules, delivery logistics. The familiar rhythm of menu planning soothed her nerves. She could do this. Maybe not the grand bakery she'd envisioned, but something smaller, more sustainable. Something built on her own terms. A knock at the door interrupted her calculations. She opened it to find Emma Gray standing on her doorstep, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Emma? Honey, what's wrong?" "My parents are fighting again. Really, really loud this time. Can I stay here until they stop?" Mia's heart clenched. "Sweetie, I think you should go home. Your parents are probably worried about you." "They're not worried. They're too busy yelling at each other." Through the darkness, Mia could see lights blazing in the gray house. Even from 2 doors away, raised voices carried on the evening air. She couldn't send a crying child back into that chaos. "Come in. I'll call your parents and let them know you're here." Emma fled to Noah's room, where the 2 children huddled together playing video games, trying to escape the adult world that had suddenly become so complicated and frightening. Mia dialed Tom's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. She tried the house number. Linda answered on the 4th ring. "Gray residence." "Linda, it's Mia. Emma's here at my house. She was upset about the arguing and she's supposed to be in her room. She came over on her own. I just wanted you to know she's safe. I'll be right there." The line went dead. 5 minutes later, Linda appeared at Mia's door. Her face was flushed, her carefully styled hair disheveled. She looked like a woman who'd been crying, though she was trying to hide it. "Emma, get your shoes. We're going home." "I don't want to go home. You and Daddy are being scary." Linda's composure cracked slightly. "Your father and I are having a discussion. That's what adults do." "That's not a discussion, that's yelling." Mia knelt down to Emma's level. "Sweetheart, sometimes parents need to work through problems. It doesn't mean they don't love you." "Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" Emma asked her mother directly. The question hit Linda like a physical blow. Her eyes filled with tears she was trying desperately not to shed. We're trying to work things out." But her voice carried no conviction. After Linda and Emma left, Noah climbed into Mia's lap on the couch. "Are all families this confusing?" Mia smoothed his hair. "Families are complicated, baby. But the love between parents and children, that's never complicated. No matter what happens between grown-ups, Emma's parents love her completely, just like I love you completely. Even if the bakery doesn't happen, especially if the bakery doesn't happen, my love for you has nothing to do with my business success." Noah was quiet for a moment. "I think Mr. Gray loves you too." The innocent observation stopped Mia's breath. "What makes you say that?" "The way he looks at you. Like you're something special." Emma says her dad never looks at her mom that way anymore. Children saw everything, understood more than adults gave them credit for. Mr. Gray is married to Mrs. Gray. That's how families work. But what if they get divorced? Then could he marry you? The question was so purely logical, so free from adult concepts of propriety and complication, that Mia didn't know how to answer. "Let's not worry about grown-up problems, okay? Let's focus on our own family." But later that night, as she lay in bed listening to the argument continuing next door, Mia couldn't stop thinking about Noah's observation. Did Tom love her? And if he did, what was she supposed to do with that knowledge? The next few weeks passed in careful avoidance. Mia threw herself into catering orders, building a small but growing client base. Word spread about her exceptional desserts. The orders increased. Tom maintained polite distance, though she sometimes caught him watching from his yard when she loaded baking supplies from her car. Their conversations were limited to brief waves and careful small talk. Linda's hostility became ice-cold politeness, surgically precise courtesy that was somehow worse than open antagonism. And the children continued to be friends, despite their mother's complicated relationship. 1 month after the block party confrontation, Mia received a phone call that changed everything. "Mrs. Thompson, this is Janet Walsh from the Millbrook Herald. I'd like to do a follow-up story on your catering business." Mia's stomach dropped. "I'm really not interested in publicity right now. I understand there was some neighborhood drama, but our readers are more interested in your business success. You've built quite a reputation in just a few weeks." "How do you know about my business?" "Your customers are talking." Mrs. Chen raved about her wedding pies. The Kowalski family ordered desserts for their anniversary party. People are impressed. Real customers. Real success. Built on her own merit without anyone's financial backing. What kind of follow-up story? Local entrepreneur builds business from home kitchen. Small-town dreams realized through determination and talent. That sort of thing. Exactly the kind of story that would establish her credibility, independent of the Tom Gray controversy. I'd be interested in talking. The interview took place the following week. Janet Walsh turned out to be a thorough journalist who asked about Mia's background, her grandmother's influence, her business planning process. She wanted to know about challenges, victories, long-term goals. Not once did she mention Tom Gray or neighborhood gossip. "What's your biggest dream for this business?" Janet asked near the end of their conversation. Mia thought carefully. "I want to create a place where community happens naturally, where people gather over good food and feel like they belong. Whether that's from my home kitchen or eventually in a storefront, the goal is the same." "And you think Millbrook is ready for that kind of gathering place?" "I think people everywhere are hungry for authentic connection. Food is just the excuse to bring them together." The article ran the following Wednesday with the headline, "From Contest Victory to Catering Success, Local Mom Builds Business One Pie at a Time." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Mia's phone rang constantly with catering requests, special orders, questions about availability. Her small home-based operation was suddenly booked solid through the holidays. More importantly, the article established her narrative. She wasn't the woman whose neighbors secretly funded her dreams. She was the entrepreneur who built a successful business through talent and determination. The distinction mattered more than she had realized. Tom called that evening, his first direct contact in weeks. "I saw the article. Congratulations, you should be proud." "Thank you. It feels good to have people focus on the work instead of the drama. That's all anyone should have focused on from the beginning." Mia could hear the regret in his voice. "Tom, what's happening with you and Linda?" "We're figuring things out. Marriage counseling, trying to rebuild trust." "I'm glad. Emma needs her parents to work things out. She asks about Noah constantly, about you. Linda's struggling with the friendship." "I know, it's hard for everyone." "Mia," Tom's voice carried a weight she hadn't heard before. "I need you to know something. What I did, backing your business, it wasn't about trying to win your affection or manipulate the situation. It was about believing in your talent when no one else would take the risk. I know that now. But I also need to be honest. Somewhere along the way, my feelings got complicated. Linda wasn't wrong about that." The admission hung between them like a bridge neither could cross. "I care about you too," Mia said quietly. "But I won't be responsible for destroying your marriage." "You're not responsible for anything. I made my own choices. And now you need to choose your family." "I am choosing my family. I'm choosing to fight for my marriage and my daughter's stability. But that doesn't mean I regret helping you achieve something you deserved." After he hung up, Mia sat in her kitchen surrounded by the tools of her growing business. Measuring cups, mixing bowls, order forms covering her table. The physical evidence of dreams becoming reality. She had built this. Yes, Tom's initial help had opened the door, but everything since then was her own work, her own success, her own merit. The realization felt like sunlight after a long winter. 3 months later, Mia received another call that would reshape her future. Mrs. Thompson, this is Robert Miller. I own the building on Oak Street where you were planning to open your bakery. Mia's heart skipped. Mr. Miller, how can I help you? I've been following your business in the newspaper. Impressive growth in such a short time. Thank you. I'm calling because I have a proposition. The original lease agreement you signed fell through, obviously, but I'm prepared to offer you a new arrangement. Mia held her breath. Rent to own. You start with payments you can afford based on your current income. As your business grows, the payments increase. After 5 years, you own the building outright. I don't understand. Why would you offer such generous terms? Because I've watched this community for 40 years. I know the difference between someone chasing a fantasy and someone building something real. You're building something real. The offer was everything Mia had dreamed of and more. Financial terms that matched her actual situation, a path to ownership, recognition from someone who had no emotional investment in her success. Can I think about it? Take your time. The building will be here when you're ready. That evening, Noah helped her practice a presentation she'd been invited to give at the next community association meeting. A talk about small business development and neighborhood investment. What if people ask about Mr. Gray? Noah wondered. Then I'll tell them the truth, that someone believed in me enough to take a risk, that I'm grateful for the opportunity, even though I've built the business on my own since then. What if Mrs. Gray is there? Mia paused. She hadn't seen Linda in weeks, though she'd heard through neighborhood gossip that the Grays' marriage counseling was ongoing. Then I'll be polite and professional. Mrs. Gray has the right to her feelings, but I won't let those feelings limit my opportunities. The community meeting was held in the elementary school gymnasium. Mia arrived early, carrying samples of her newest creations and a portfolio of testimonials from satisfied customers. One by one, neighbors filed in. The Johnsons, Mrs. Peterson, the Kowalski family, even Mrs. Chen, who had become one of her most devoted customers. Tom entered about 10 minutes after the meeting started. He nodded politely but took a seat in the back. Linda was nowhere to be seen. Mia's presentation went smoothly. She talked about the economic benefits of supporting local businesses, the importance of community gathering spaces, her vision for a bakery that would become the heart of neighborhood social life. When she opened the floor for questions, Mrs. Johnson raised her hand. Mia, your business has grown remarkably fast. What advice would you give to other aspiring entrepreneurs? Start where you are. Use what you have. Don't wait for perfect conditions or unlimited funding. Sometimes the best businesses grow organically from real community needs. Mr. Kowalski asked about her specialties, her pricing, her availability for large events. Mrs. Peterson wondered about baking classes for children. No one asked about Tom Gray or neighborhood drama or funding controversies. After the meeting, people lingered to try her samples and discuss potential orders. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Several people mentioned that Millbrook had been missing exactly this kind of gathering place. Tom approached as she packed up her materials. Great presentation. You're going to do very well with the new space. You heard about Mr. Miller's offer? Small town. Word gets around. He smiled. I'm happy for you. This is how it should have happened from the beginning. Tom, I want you to know, I don't regret accepting your help. It opened doors I couldn't have opened alone. But I'm glad I had the chance to prove I could build something sustainable. You proved more than that. You proved that dreams aren't foolish when they're backed by real talent and determination. As he turned to leave, Mia called after him. How are things at home? Tom paused. Better. Not perfect, but better. Linda and I are learning to communicate again. Emma's happier. It's going to take time, but we're committed to making it work. I'm glad. She deserves parents who fight for their marriage. And you deserve success that's entirely your own. After the meeting, Mia drove slowly through Millbrook's quiet streets, past the Miller building that would soon house her bakery, past the elementary school where Noah was thriving, past the neighborhoods where her customers lived. This was home now, Not just because she had bought a house here, but because she had built something meaningful within this community. The next morning, she called Mr. Miller and accepted his offer. 6 weeks later, Thompson's Bakery opened its doors for the first time. The renovations had been modest but thoughtful. Warm lighting, comfortable seating areas, display cases filled with breads, pastries, and pies that made people's mouths water just walking in. Opening day brought a steady stream of curious neighbors and loyal catering customers. Mrs. Chen arrived before 9 a.m. and stayed for 2 hours, trying everything and chatting with other customers. The Kowalski family ordered enough baked goods to feed their entire extended family dinner. Even some customers from neighboring towns had driven over after reading about the opening in the regional newspaper. But the moment that meant the most came at closing time. Noah burst through the front door, followed by Emma Gray. Both children ran straight to the display case, pressing their noses against the glass like kids at a candy store. "Mama, it's perfect," Noah exclaimed. "It's even better than we imagined," Emma nodded enthusiastically. "It smells like happiness in here." Through the front window, Mia could see Linda and Tom standing on the sidewalk. Linda's posture was stiff, uncertain. Tom looked proud but careful not to intrude. Mia walked outside. "Thank you for letting Emma come see the opening." Linda nodded stiffly. "The children have been asking about each other. It seemed unkind to keep them apart indefinitely. They're welcome here any time. Both of them. I want you to know," Linda's voice was quiet, almost apologetic, "I never questioned your talent. Just your situation." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was acknowledgement. Recognition that her hostility had been misplaced. "I understand. Protecting your family is important." "Yes, it is." Linda looked through the window at Emma and Noah sharing a cinnamon roll. "But so is letting children maintain friendships that make them happy. Small steps, but steps nonetheless." That night, after cleaning up from the successful opening, Mia sat in her bakery with a cup of coffee and her grandmother's recipe book. The space around her hummed with satisfied energy, the kind that comes from dreams realized through honest work. Her phone buzzed with a text from Janet Walsh, the reporter. "Saw the lines outside your bakery today. Congratulations on the opening. Would love to do another follow-up story in a few months." Another text from Mrs. Chen. "Thank you for creating exactly what this neighborhood needed. See you tomorrow for my usual coffee and scone." And one from Tom. "Congratulations. You should be proud of everything you've accomplished, all of it." The messages represented different aspects of her journey. The professional recognition, the customer loyalty, the personal support that had helped her through the difficult times. But the most important validation came from within herself. She had done this. She had taken her grandmother's recipes, her own determination, and a community's hunger for connection and built something lasting. Something that would survive and thrive regardless of neighborhood gossip or personal complications. A year later, Thompson's Bakery was firmly established as the heart of Millbrook's social life. The morning coffee crowd included construction workers, teachers, retirees, and young mothers with strollers. The afternoon brought teenagers sharing pastries and elderly couples enjoying quiet conversations over tea. Mia had hired 2 part-time employees and was considering expanding into lunch offerings. The Gray family had become regular customers. Linda still maintained a certain formality, but she no longer radiated hostility. Emma and Noah's friendship had not only survived but strengthened, serving as a bridge between their families. Tom's marriage had stabilized. He and Linda attended couples counseling regularly and had taken a vacation to reconnect. Their daughter was happier, which made everyone's life easier. But perhaps the most significant change was in Mia herself. She no longer second-guessed her decisions or waited for other people's permission to pursue opportunities. The business had given her financial independence, but more importantly, it had given her confidence in her own judgment. On busy Saturday mornings, when the bakery was full of families and friends and the comfortable chaos of community life, Mia often thought about her grandmother. Grandma Rosie would have loved this place. The way recipes connected generations, the way food brought strangers together, the way dreams could be patient, waiting for the right moment to bloom. One particularly busy Saturday, a young woman approached Mia during a brief lull. "Excuse me, are you the owner?" "Yes, I'm Mia Thompson." "I'm Sarah Martinez. I just moved to Millbrook and I've been coming here every morning for coffee. I love what you've created." "Thank you. Welcome to the neighborhood." "Actually, I wanted to ask you about something. I'm a single mother too, and I have an idea for a small business. I was wondering, would you be willing to give me some advice? Maybe meet for coffee sometime?" Mia looked at Sarah's hopeful, nervous expression. The same mixture of dreams and uncertainty she remembered feeling 18 months ago. "I'd be happy to help. How about we meet here Monday morning when it's quieter?" "Really? That would be amazing. Thank you so much." After Sarah left, Mia smiled to herself. The cycle was continuing, dreams supporting dreams, community lifting up community. That evening, as she closed the bakery and walked home through Millbrook's familiar streets, Mia reflected on how much had changed since that first nervous barbecue in her backyard. She had learned that belonging wasn't something granted by others. It was something you built through authentic contribution, through showing up consistently, offering your best work, treating people with respect regardless of how they treated you. She had learned that dreams weren't fragile fantasies. They were resilient visions that grew stronger when tested by reality. Most importantly, she had learned that success built on your own merit felt different from success built on others' charity. Not because the help was wrong, but because the confidence was unshakable. If this story is moving you, don't forget to like and subscribe, because your support allows us to keep sharing stories like this. A few months later, Mia received a letter that made her sit down heavily at her kitchen table. The letter was from a food magazine, a national publication that had heard about Thompson's Bakery through regional food bloggers. They wanted to feature her story in their Small Town Success Stories section. National recognition, validation beyond her community, proof that her business model and her approach to community-centered food service were noteworthy on a broader scale. But as she read the letter, Mia realized something unexpected. She didn't need national recognition to feel successful. She already felt successful. The full display cases every morning, the regular customers who had become friends, the way her bakery had become a gathering place for celebrations, comfort, and everyday connection. That was success. Still, she called the magazine and agreed to the interview, not because she needed the validation, but because other people in small towns might need to hear that their dreams were possible too. The feature ran 6 months later with photos of the cozy bakery interior and quotes from loyal customers. The article emphasized Mia's journey from contest winner to successful entrepreneur, her commitment to community building, and her role in revitalizing downtown Millbrook. The response was immediate. Food tourists began stopping by during weekend trips through the Pacific Northwest. A few inquired about franchising opportunities or consulting services. There was even interest from a TV producer about a potential show focused on small-town food businesses. But Mia turned down most of the offers. Thompson's Bakery wasn't meant to be a franchise or a media opportunity. It was meant to be exactly what it had become, the heart of her community. She did, however, accept an invitation to speak at a conference for women entrepreneurs. Her talk, titled Building Dreams One Customer at a Time, focused on sustainable growth, community integration, and the importance of maintaining authentic vision even during rapid success. The conference was held in Seattle, 3 hours from Millbrook. Noah spent the weekend with the Grays, and Mia drove to the city feeling nervous but determined. Her speech went well. She talked about starting small, building relationships, staying true to core values even when external pressures suggested different approaches. She discussed the role that initial support had played in her success, but emphasized the importance of proving sustainable viability independently. During the Q&A session, a woman raised her hand. "How did you handle people who doubted your ability to succeed?" especially when some of that doubt came from within your own community. Mia thought about Linda's early hostility, the whispers after the block party confrontation, the way some neighbors had waited to see if she would fail spectacularly. I learned that other people's doubt says more about their fears than your capabilities. I focused on serving my customers well and let the work speak for itself. Eventually, results are louder than skepticism. Another woman asked about balancing single motherhood with business demands. I involved my son in age-appropriate ways. He helped with simple tasks, understood that hard work was how we built our future together, and learned valuable lessons about perseverance and customer service. My business wasn't separate from my family life. It was part of creating the life we wanted. After the conference, several attendees approached Mia with their own stories and challenges. Many were single mothers or women starting over after major life changes. They wanted practical advice, encouragement, and proof that success was possible without unlimited resources or perfect circumstances. Mia found herself exchanging contact information and promising to stay in touch with women whose dreams reminded her of her own journey. On the drive home to Millbrook, she thought about the ripple effects of pursuing authentic dreams. Her success hadn't just changed her own life. It had contributed to her community's economic development, provided employment for her part-time workers, created a gathering space that strengthened neighborhood relationships, and now was inspiring other women to pursue their own entrepreneurial dreams. Dreams weren't selfish pursuits. When they were rooted in service and community contribution, they became gifts to everyone around them. Back in Millbrook, life settled into comfortable rhythms. Thompson's Bakery continued to thrive. Noah excelled in school and maintained his friendship with Emma Gray. Mia dated occasionally, but wasn't in any hurry to complicate her life with serious relationships. She was content, not because her life was perfect, but because it was authentically hers. 2 years after opening the bakery, Mia was invited to serve on Millbrook's Economic Development Committee. The role involved advising the city council on small business initiatives, downtown revitalization projects, and community investment strategies. Her first committee meeting was held in the same elementary school gymnasium where she had given her presentation about small business development. But this time, she sat at the planning table instead of addressing the audience. The committee was discussing a proposal to create a small business incubator program, a way to help aspiring entrepreneurs access resources, mentorship, and affordable startup space. "We need someone who understands both the challenges and the realities of starting a business here," said the committee chair. "Mia, would you be interested in heading up the mentorship component?" The opportunity to help other dreamers navigate the path from idea to sustainable business was exactly the kind of community contribution that aligned with Mia's values. "I'd be honored." Over the following months, Mia worked with city planners, local business owners, and regional economic development organizations to create a comprehensive support system for new entrepreneurs. The program included workshop series, one-on-one mentoring, connections to funding resources, and access to shared commercial kitchen space. The first cohort included Sarah Martinez, the young single mother who had approached Mia for advice months earlier. Sarah's business plan involved homemade tamales served from a food truck, bringing authentic Mexican flavors to Millbrook's growing cultural diversity. Also in the cohort was a retired teacher who wanted to open a bookstore cafe, a recent college graduate with plans for a bicycle repair shop, and a military veteran interested in starting a landscaping business. Watching these entrepreneurs develop their ideas, refine their business models, and take concrete steps toward their dreams brought Mia full circle. She remembered her own uncertainty, her need for encouragement, her gratitude for people who believed in her potential. Now she was the one offering belief, practical support, and proof that success was possible. The incubator program's success attracted attention from regional media and economic development organizations. Millbrook began to be recognized as a model for small-town entrepreneurship and community-supported business development. But for Mia, The most meaningful recognition came from her daily interactions with customers who had become friends, from her son's pride in their shared accomplishment, and from the knowledge that she had created something lasting and valuable. On quiet Sunday mornings when the bakery was closed and she sat in the peaceful space with her coffee and planning notes for the coming week, Mia often returned to her grandmother's wisdom. Dreams weren't guaranteed. They required patience, persistence, and willingness to adapt when circumstances changed. They demanded authentic service to others, not just personal ambition. They grew strongest when rooted in community and connection, rather than individual achievement. Most importantly, dreams realized through honest effort became foundations for other people's dreams. Mia's story had started with a contest victory and a generous neighbor's support. But it had become something much larger, proof that communities thrive when they invest in each other's potential, that success multiplies when it's shared generously, and that the dreams we build with integrity become gifts to future generations. Thompson's Bakery wasn't just Mia's achievement. It belonged to Millbrook now, woven into the community's identity, as thoroughly as the morning coffee rituals and the evening conversations over shared desserts. And in a small town where neighbors looked out for each other, where single mothers could build successful businesses, and where children like Noah and Emma could grow up believing in the power of dreams supported by hard work and community connection, anything seemed possible. The jealous neighbor who had once mocked Mia's aspirations had become a regular customer. The husband who had risked his marriage to support a stranger's dream had learned to channel his generosity in ways that strengthened rather than threatened his family relationships. The single mother who had arrived in town hoping for a fresh start had found something more valuable than she had dared to imagine, a place where she truly belonged. As Mia locked up the bakery each evening and walked home through streets lined with neighbors who knew her name and appreciated her contributions, she carried with her the deepest satisfaction possible, the knowledge that she had built something meaningful with her own hands, her own vision, and her own unwavering commitment to serving others well. This transformation hadn't happened overnight. It had happened one conversation, one customer, one perfect pie at a time. Slowly, steadily, authentically, the way the best dreams always come true. Have you ever lived through or known someone who went through something similar? Have you watched someone transform doubt into determination, skepticism into success? Have you been the person who needed encouragement to pursue a dream, or the person who provided that crucial support to someone else? Mia's journey reminds us that our dreams don't have to be perfect or fully funded to be worth pursuing. They just have to be genuine, service-oriented, and backed by consistent effort. The people who doubt us often doubt themselves. The people who support us see possibilities we might not even recognize in ourselves. Sometimes the most powerful transformation happens not when we achieve our grand vision exactly as we imagined it, but when we discover that the person we become while chasing that vision is even better than the success we originally sought. If this story resonated with you, give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. Share your own story in the comments about a time when someone believed in your dreams, or when you helped someone else pursue theirs. These connections, these shared experiences of hope and determination, are what build communities strong enough to support everyone's success. Because in the end, we all succeed together, or we all struggle alone. And stories like Mia's prove that together is always better.